The son of murdered gangster Kevin Gerbil Carroll is wanted by police over an alleged attempted murder on a painter in his mum's home. Detectives want to quiz 21-year-old Konnor Green over an alleged attack on the tradesman at Kellyboe Green's house, while Police Scotland are trying to trace him as soon as possible. Konnor, who uses Carroll as his surname, had only just turned 6 years old when his feared dad, part of the Daniel crime family, was executed at a Glasgow supermarket car park in 2010, aged just 29. Lions gang hitman Billy Buff Patterson was jailed for at least 22 years over the execution outside the Asda store in Rob Royston. Kellyboe, daughter of late crime clan boss Jamie Daniel and the widow of murdered enforcer Carroll, was not at home when it was claimed the alleged incident is said to have happened. The painter is said to have been covered in paint, as well as his own blood, after the alleged incident on October the 10th. A source told us police have been trying to trace him. Detectives think it's highly likely he will have information useful to their inquiry. The alleged attack took place 5 months after Kellyboe's home was set alight by firebomb maniacs linked to an underworld turf war, but it's understood the latest incident isn't linked to the feud that has gripped the Central Belt. Hoods torched the front of the house at 1 in the morning on May the 13th that left scorch marks on the front window. Green is among several people linked to the Notorious family who have been targeted since the wave of violence kicked off back in March. Others caught up in the gangland chaos include Annette Daniel, the mother of her cousin Stephen Bonzo Daniel, plus his uncle Norman Daniel. Their homes in nearby Bishop Briggs were also set on fire. Meanwhile, a boy of 12 and a woman who was 72 linked to the Daniels were battered at a house in the city's Milton area. Meanwhile, a garage in Kirkintilloch near Glasgow, where Kelly's brother Francis Fraggle Green was once a director, was also set ablaze. Gerbil was one of the most feared crooks in Scotland before he was executed in a hail of 13 bullets while he sat in an Audi. He was at the very epicentre of the bloody feud with the rival Lions gang, which plagued North Glasgow for more than a decade. It's understood Konnor, despite only being 6, attended the funeral at Langfold Cemetery in Bearsden near Glasgow. His headstone reads, "A loving dad to Rhys, Konnor and Beau, a devoted partner to Kelly, too much loved to ever be forgotten." Carroll was born in Drumchapel but moved to Milton as a youngster and forged friendships with crime boss Jamie Daniel's sons, Robert Daniel and Francis Fraggle Green, Kellyboe's brothers. The nickname that would become notorious was coined by a cousin after Kevin the Gerbil, a character from the TV puppet series Roland Rat. By the time of his death just a few years later, Carroll had reached the summit of the city's underworld as a feared enforcer for the Daniel family. The last man to do business with Gerbil summed up the gangster's fearsome reputation. During the Patterson trial, drug dealer Stephen Glenn, who Carroll had gone to meet on the day he was shot, told the jury nobody in the whole of Glasgow would F with him. Glenn added Gerbil was a maniac who wanted a bigger share of the lucrative drugs trade. He said he was recruited by Gerbil minutes before his execution, who told him he was making £250,000 a year dealing cocaine. Under cross-examination by Derek Ogg QC, he confirmed he had heard stories about Carroll torturing, maiming and disfiguring people. Gerbil was behind a series of so-called alien abductions across central Scotland. He used a blowtorch and boiling water to torture victims before stealing drugs, money and weapons from them. They became known as the Alien Abduction Gang because the traumatised victims told police they couldn't remember anything about their ordeal. Victims, often linked to rival gangs, were snatched from their homes at gunpoint by the mob, posing as armed police. They then had hoods placed over their heads before being taken to safe houses or disused buildings where they suffered horrific physical and mental torture. Power tools were used in other attacks. One dealer was on a drugs buy when the mob stole 4 kilos of cocaine worth up to £50,000 with no violence, just the words, "You're taxed, you bam." In another attack, a gang member posed as a postman to get inside a house before 3 henchmen burst in. Carroll's most serious brush with the law came in 2004 when he was charged with attempted murder. He was accused of shooting John Madden, a pal of Eddie Lyons Sr., with an AK-47, but the case later collapsed. He had been shot twice before and knew there were people who wanted him dead. The carnage this year is said to have been triggered by former Rangers Ultras chief Ross Miami McGill after he was ripped off with fake cash in a £500,000 cocaine deal. McGill from East Kilbride blamed associates of caged Edinburgh kingpin Mark Richardson, who's an ally of the Daniels. Last night, a Police Scotland spokesman said of the alleged attack, "Our inquiries are ongoing."